Have you ever wondered that the history of an entire galaxy, the fate of millions of living beings, sometimes depends on several events, successful or unsuccessful actions, choices or decisions of a handful of living beings, and sometimes a single person? Have you ever wondered how the history of the galaxy would turn if, say, one young hot-headed pilot who had just escaped from the galactic backwater which served as his home for 2 decades missed and did not detonate a giant battle station with one shot? What if the brave Jedi, the hope and support of the entire galaxy, had not survived an encounter with a snow monster in the icy wastelands of Hoth? Or maybe a desperate attempt to save the gallant pilot from the clutches of vile gangster Slug turned out to be a failure, and a young princess without a planet was not reunited with her lover. And a brave but inexperienced Jedi Knight was too late to meet his dying mentor. What would have happened then? Have you ever thought about it? I bet you do, but have you ever thought about another alternative? What if the duel of 2 old friends, brothers, master and student, fighting in the middle of a lake of soothing lava had ended differently? The story of Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi, only it unfolds in a slightly different way. Part 1. The Fall. Mustafar, the first hours after the end of the Clone Wars, the Separatist forces are de-engineered, and their leadership has met a brutal end at the hands of the galaxy's greatest hero. The citizens of the Republic are already aware of the Jedi Knight's conspiracy and are trying to come to terms with the fact that they have become citizens of the Empire overnight. Meanwhile, flames are raging on the lifeless planet Mustafar. Lava flows from the vents of numerous volcanoes and slowly but steadily makes its way down, mercilessly burning everything that comes in its way. The heavy, poisonous air is shrouded in clouds of smoke and ash. Mustafar is not meant for intelligent life, not suitable for any life at all, but there is life here, both local and foreign. Resource-rich lava rivers have attracted greedy Techno-Union business persons to the planet, who have built automatic mines on the shore of the fiery oceans, pumping everything that is of any value for the galactic economy from the molten streams flowing by. It is this place that becomes the scene of the last duel between the 2 greatest heroes living during the twilights of the Republic.
Don't make me kill you. I will do what I must. You will try, my old friend.
Their fight is reminiscent of a duel between twin brothers. Anakin and Obi-Wan have lived side by side for 10 years. They have survived countless battles, skirmishes, and ambushes. They spent hours honing their skills during sparring sessions in the training room. But now their duel is far from sparring sessions. Former brothers, friends, comrades in arms are fighting seriously, and each blow risks becoming fatal. The rivals know each other too well. They are able to predict each next step of their opponent, but only one of them blindly rushes forward, inflicting one deadly blow after another, and the second one only steps back, reflecting one deadly blow after another. Obi-Wan cannot bring himself to raise his hand against Anakin. He cannot bring himself to slay the one who has been like a brother to him for so long. Even if it's this for this purpose, the Jedi Master flew into a planet full of fire. The blades flashed with lightning. Obi-Wan barely had time to ripple the increasingly risky attacks of the enemy. He dodges, jumps, or meets them with kicks, sweeps, and blows. "Don't make me kill you, Obi-Wan," Anakin says in a cold voice. "You cannot handle the power of the dark side." "I've heard that before," Obi-Wan remarks, "but I've never expected to hear those words from you." Anakin responds with a powerful thrust of force, which knocks Obi-Wan against the far wall and pumps all of the air out of his lungs. The former Padawan continues to press his former master to the far end of the shaft, where light walkways extended in the distance, stretching over the streams of liquid fire flowing below. The vice of the strong is arrogance, Obi-Wan observes, missing another opportunity to counterattack when Anakin's next thrust leaves him open to a punch in the side. And you are hesitant, says Anakin, not hesitant to turn his failed attack into another attempt to halve his former teacher. The vice of compassion. Not compassion, Kenobi argues. Respect for life, even yours. Respect for the person you once were. Anakin lets out a scream full of rage. He again pushes Kenobi with the Force and throws him out of the inner rooms of the mine onto one of the walkways under an endless rain of ash and ash. I'm sick of your lectures, he shouts. Now they fight on a narrow, flimsy bridge towering above the river of fire that flows between the black banks. Anakin pushed his opponent to the very edge of the bridge, and in order not to collapse down into the hot embrace of molten rock, Obi-Wan is forced to jump. He first jumps onto a cable hanging down, and from it jumps to a collecting droid flying by. Skywalker, his face twisted with hatred, jumps after him. Now they fight in parallel connecting droids, balancing desperately on an unstable tiny surface and risking losing their balance and collapsing. With one unsuccessful movement, Kenobi stops holding himself back. He understands the brutality of his attempts to reason with Anakin, understands the full extent of his responsibility to the galaxy. Kenobi cannot let Anakin leave this planet and continue bringing evil to the vastness of the galaxy. He just can't. Harvester droids fly up to a high bank shore that towers over the lava flows. Kenobi leaps towards him. Anakin tries to hack the teacher to death in flight, but his blades flew millimeters from his feet of the Jedi Master, and Obi-Wan lands with great difficulty right on the edge of the ledge. Anakin swears, realizing he has been played. "It's over, Anakin," Obi-Wan yells. "I have the high ground." A cruel smile spreads across Anakin's lips. He jumps after him, jumps faster, higher, stronger than Obi-Wan expected. Faster and higher than possible. Even with the Force, he lands right behind Obi-Wan. The Jedi Master frantically turns and throws up his sword in an attempt to deflect the blow, but in his mind, immediately tells him that he is too late and already dead. What a cruel irony. Obi-Wan managed to think. 10 years ago on Naboo, I did the same with Maul. His blade does not have time to meet Anakin's sword. A focused stream of blue energy passes through Obi-Wan's body, splitting the Jedi Master into two roughly equal halves. Both fall down and instantly burn up in the hot lava. You underestimate the power of the dark side, teacher. Then Anakin, so happy, arrogant, and content, runs to Padme. He is greeted by an alarmed R2 and 3PO. The droids say that Mistress Padme is in a very bad way, and they are afraid that she will not survive. Anakin is gripped by a terrible fear, his worst nightmares coming true in reality. But how is it possible? How can this be? After all, he turned to the dark side to prevent this, in order to gain knowledge inaccessible to the Jedi. Knowledge. Exactly. After all, Palpatine promised to give him knowledge, promised to come up with something. Anakin contacts Palpatine, confusedly explains that Padme is dying, and reminds that Palpatine promised to save his wife, my boy. Palpatine's face tries to blur into his trademark warm smile, apparently forgetting about the changes that have occurred to it, which makes the smile resemble a predatorial grin. He reminds, or just is, my boy, in your blind love for Padme, you probably did not hear me or misinterpreted my words. I said that my teacher was able to cheat his death. I don't know anything about whether he was able to prevent the death of anyone else. In any case, even if he was, all this knowledge remained in his head, and he took these secrets with him to the grave. But you promised. I promised that we will come up with something, and I do not give up my words. Take your wife and come with me. But I have no time, Anakin screams desperately. Padme is dying now. Sidious's face transforms into the silent mask it is. In that case, Lord Vader, there is nothing I can do to help her. Your wife will die. You still have a lot to learn about the dark side. You are at the very beginning of a great journey, and we will go through it together. But first, you need to learn a couple of lessons. The Sith welcome pain. They enjoy it. They turn pain into strength, into the fuel that feeds their power. Convert your wife's death into fuel that will make you the greatest Sith in the galaxy. And the second lesson, Lord Vader, is that I endured your traumas while you were a Jedi. The Force knows how boring and painful their teachings are. The Jedi didn't appreciate you, and Obi-Wan spoiled you, but now you are a Sith and my apprentice, and you will learn obedience. Know your place, Lord Vader. Don't disobey your teacher. Let your wife die, help her die if this drags on, and then fly to me, and your training will begin. Palpatine breaks the connection and Vader's emotions begin to torment. First of all, he was brought to the dark side by fear. Fear of not being strong enough. Fear of losing the last people close to him. And now, the newly converted Sith suddenly begins to realize that he may have finished off the last of them with his own hands. His teacher is already dead and his wife. Anakin rushes to his wife. The droids meet with him with the news that Mistress Padme is in very bad condition and she urgently needs to be taken care of to the nearest hospital. Vader brushes them off and tries to use the Force to do something, but the dark side is not made to help anyone other than themselves. Blue lightning strikes from his fingertips and engulfs Padme's body. The woman bends, screaming in pain, and comes to her senses. Seeing her husband's face distorted with pain, anger, and confusion, Padme, for the first time in her life, is frightened by him. She cries and asks to stop torturing her. Vader tries to calm her down, but fails. Padme asks where Obi-Wan is. You don't need to worry about Obi-Wan anymore, Anakin grins. My ex-teacher won't bother us anymore. Did you kill him? Asks Padme and sees the answer on her husband's face. Tears appear in his eyes. No, I don't believe you. It's not you, Annie. You're not like that. That's not you. No, Padme, Vader argues. Now I am just like that. The Jedi held me back, limited me, and prevented from realizing my potential. They were afraid of me, but now Master Sidious showed me a new path, a path to power and greatness that you never dreamed of. Henceforth and forever, I will just be like that. Then I have no reason to live any longer, says Padme, and turns away. Vader, in anger, thinks about rewarding his wife with a new portion of the Force lightning, this time deliberately, but he is distracted by a shudder that runs through the entire ship. Engines roar into the air. Vader runs to the cockpit and sees that while he was trying unsuccessfully to revive Padme, R2 has charted a course to the nearest medical facilities on Polis Massa's asteroid. Vader wants to say something but leaves without a word. On Polis Massa, medical droids circle Padme and carry her to the intensive care unit. They tell Vader that they are physically managed to bring Padme's condition back to normal, but the woman's vital signs are continuously decreasing. The droids cannot explain this, but it seems that the woman simply does not want to live. However, they promise to do whatever they can to save her children. Vader asks, dumbfounded. Yes, the droid replies, "Congratulations, sir. You will have twins, a boy and a girl." Padme gives birth to 2 twins and has time to name the children Luke, Leia. Then, on her last legs, she calls her husband and asks him to protect the children. Just don't give our children to the Emperor, Padme begs. He is pure evil. He will corrupt them or destroy. Protect them, Anakin. Protect our children. Protect even from yourself, since you couldn't protect me. I believe that there is still good in you. I believe you can still return to the light. With these words, she dies. Anakin smashes everything around him in anger. He kills the medical droid, destroying everything, and nearly destroys R2 with 3PO, but is revived by Leia's crying. The baby is cold, hungry, and afraid. Padme's words echo through his evil. He will corrupt them or destroy. Protect them, Anakin. Protect our children. Protect them even from yourself, since you could not protect me. The fear that has lived in his soul since birth, the fear that pushed him to the most cruel acts, grips his heart with a steel grip. He reflects that he has not become as powerful as he wanted and realizes that the dark side of the Force will never give him the powers he wants. Vader suddenly realizes that Palpatine was pushing him towards this outcome. He understands the current situation is beneficial to Palpatine and Palpatine only, that Palpatine wanted to get rid of the Jedi, he wanted to get rid of Obi-Wan, and wanted to get rid of Padme. And he did. He just did. And he did it by Vader's hand. And now he would want to get rid of her children too. Get rid of, or use against him. Vader realizes that the children must be hidden. The Emperor must not know of their existence. Back on the ship, Vader searches it thoroughly and destroys any hint of tracking beacons. Then he contacts Bail Organa and asks him to raise Padme's daughter as his own, saying that he fears for the girl's life. Bail agrees without asking any questions or interested in the subject. Perhaps he understood everything. Bail Organa has always been too clever for his own sake. Vader leaves 3PO with Leia, and Bail ordered the protocol droid's memory to be erased. Meanwhile, Tatooine, and asks Owen and Beru to raise Luke. He leaves R2 with them. Realizing the name Skywalker will paint a target on his son's back, Vader asks the farmers to adopt the boy and give him their last name, and then, alone, Darth Vader goes back, realizing that from now on, he will be alone for the rest of his life. Realizing that in this life, he has one important goal left: kill Palpatine. Taking the baby, Luke in their arms, they stand on the hill next to their farm and admire the double Tatooine sunset. Part 2. The Abyss. Vader is broken and depressed. Anger in his soul is increasingly replaced by sadness and pain. He understands more and more clearly that Emperor Palpatine deceived him, and worst of all, Palpatine is the only one who benefited from the situation. While Vader destroyed 2 people close to him with his own hands, in his soul a determination is formed to deal with the Emperor. Fueled by fear and for the future of his children, he tries to wander the galaxy in search of Jedi and Sith artifacts. At first, Vader manically looks for means that he can prolong life or even return from the other world. But then he started to seek knowledge that would help him overcome a new teacher. In parallel, Vader has to combine his searches with the tasks he has to deal with as the Emperor's right hand. His secret identity, Darth Vader, remains a secret, known only to a selected few, as does the Emperor's Sith origins. In public, Vader has to play a different, all too familiar role. Inspections of troops, actions against rebels, restoring order in the army, and as a business role against unreliable and corrupt officials, hunting down the last surviving Jedi and unbroken separatists. All this has to be done by the renowned General Anakin Skywalker, a war hero, the only one knight who remained faithful and revealed the secret of the Jedi conspiracy. However, not everyone is sure on the 100% loyalty of the former Jedi. The entire top of the army and navy, all promoted senators and members of the government, are actively plotting against Vader, and the most powerful whispers direct in the ear of the Emperor, sowing seeds of doubt in his black soul about the devotion of his student. Vader's main enemy, a person with whom he cannot find a common language, is Grand Moff Tarkin, a tough and ruthless politician who actually manages all affairs and administration's judgment on behalf of the Emperor. Tarkin regularly advises the Emperor to tighten the grip in rebellious systems, and it was he who proposed to Palpatine the idea of building a huge battle station known as the Death Star. All objections of Vader actively arguing that some kind of battle station is nothing compared to the Force, and are all ignored. Seeing the mental rushing of his student, Palpatine seeks to occupy Vader as much as possible. For him, there is always a new uprising to crush, a Jedi to kill, and a crisis to resolve. Vader is regularly dispatched to clean up the Outer Rim, specifically the Mandalorians, and put the Hutts to rest. It seems as if Palpatine is deliberately inventing all of these problems so as not to leave Vader alone with his own thoughts. But at night, Anakin is still haunted by nightmares in which he chops off the hands of Master Windu, kills the younglings, and cuts Obi-Wan into two, and force chokes Padme. Sometimes Vader had other dreams as well, dreams in which he made a different decision, the correct decision. Dreams where he was not led to the persuasion of the Chancellor, where without hesitation he hacked him down on spot as soon as he heard that fateful confession where he joined Master Windu and not this creepy old man that blurred like molten wax. The dream in which all of his friends are alive, the Jedi are alive, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan are alive, Padme is alive. Dreams in which they no longer need to hide their relationship, in which he, the famous war hero and savior of the Republic, retired, left the Order. Padme also left politics and they flew to Naboo and bought an estate in the Lake District. Dreams in which Anakin relaxed and admired the trees on the Varkino Island. His children run around the yard with a cheerful, careful laugh, and his wife in a flowing, loose dress with bare shoulders like the one she wore when they first flew there, comes out laughing to the trays from their house, carrying a tray of refreshing drinks for all four. R2 is busy with something in the corner. 3PO is arguing about something with Jar Jar, who for some reason considers their estate his home, and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka drop in for a visit every time the Order affairs bring them to this part of the galaxy. Such dreams are even worse because they give feelings of happiness and peace that remain within Vader for the first moments after awakening, and then painfully evaporating once the cruel reality seeps back and engulfs him. It's in a dispassionate, merciless embrace. Ultimately, after 10 agonizing years after Mustafar, Anakin makes his mind up and turns to the only living being who can help him in his endeavors, Yoda. The old Jedi greets Anakin with a wise, sad, understanding smile. There is no anger or hatred in his heart. Such feelings are unworthy of a Jedi. Only sadness, grief, and deep sorrow for the millions of lost lives. Yoda says that he was doomed in advance to loosen in a duel with Palpatine because he was guided by revenge, and revenge is not a true Jedi. Vader replies that he is no longer a Jedi, but Sith you are neither, says the wise dwarf. Vader says that he is not doing this for revenge, but for love, and that he has someone to protect. Apparently Vader's secret absence were not so secret for the Emperor. Somehow the Emperor got wind of them and sniffed and followed for having returned once to Dagobah. Vader did not feel Yoda in the Force as he descended to the planet. He quickly understood why. The old Jedi had disappeared. His tiny hut was burned down, his little garden destroyed, and his old and tattered cape and staff were scattered in the mud. But the body was nowhere to be found, and there was someone else, an arrogant, mocking, self-confident man armed to the teeth and dressed in light armor, and that does not hold back any movement. Ochio Bestoon, the assassin of the Sith. The bastard acted like he had already defeated Vader. Self-confidence was his undoing. Vader playfully chopped off his head and left the body lying in the swamp to be torn apart by the local inhabitants. Vader had no doubt that even the bones of the body were gone before he reached the starship. Back on Coruscant, Vader headed straight for the Emperor's quarters. The old man had already guessed everything, and he had time to prepare and was awaiting for his rebellious student. He was waiting in the company of 15 experienced trained fighters with force sensitivity and lightsaber skills. Inquisitors, pathetic scavengers, they got so used to the numbers to lean on, the stray from the herd, and track down the tired. Vader killed them all. The The dark side is a poor ally when it comes to team actions. The Sith's greatest success came when they thinned their rankings and introduced the rule of 2 for a reason. At first, the Inquisitors attacked Vader all at once, all together. They stood in each other's way. A couple of fighters were in such a hurry to get to the enemy they slaughtered each other. This running was only to Vader's favor. Swinging his lightsaber carefully, he plunged it into the midst of his enemies. He chopped, shredded, mowed, and cut off. Corpses fell in all directions, but the Inquisitors did not even think to surrender. In this battle, they did not have the opportunity to retreat. Anyone who flinched and tried to escape would be greeted by the Emperor's Force Lightning. When the body count increased to several dozen and the dumbest and hottest hotheads from among the Inquisitors left the world of the living, their survivors tried to act smarter. Now the Inquisitors attacked Vader's several fighters at a time. They came in from all directions like dogs, tracking their prey. At least 2 tried to get behind the Dark Lord and then all at once pounced on him, in the hope that at least one blade would find its target. It did. One blade never missed. Each swing found its target. Each blow added one body lying on the floor, and it was Vader's blade. The Dark Lord spun around, deflecting blows, blocking, counterattacks, and struck. He dodged in indifferent directions and kicked and hacked, and when several enemies appeared in his field of vision at once, he resorted to the help of the Force, pushed opponents to the sides, struck them together, pulled them to him, put them on a sword, or chopped them with the Force. Finally, no more than 10 enemies remained alive, the most experienced, cunning, or powerful fighters that the Inquisitors ever had. They did not rush at Vader, along with the first waves of Inquisitors, giving them the opportunity to wear down the enemy. Vader was the most powerful fighter the galaxy has ever known, but even he had to get tired sooner or later. These fighters, experienced Inquisitors, each of whom took the lives of more than one Jedi, counted one late. They miscalculated. They were waiting for their turn. They fought Vader one-on-one, and they really worn him down. They inflicted many wounds, damaged armor, and once or twice within a hair's breadth of killing him, but they all failed. They died, leaving the wounded, weakened, and exhausted Darth Vader along with the Emperor. The Emperor, by contrast, was fresh and full of power. The battle with him turned out to be much more brutal and difficult than with 50 Inquisitors. Only the thought of his children gave Vader strength and made him continue to stand on his feet. And then the Emperor made a fatal mistake. Thinking that he found Vader's shatter point, he began to directly threaten his children and telling him what he would do with them when he dealt with him and found them. Palpatine's words gave Vader strength to cut off the Emperor's head, and he steps over the collapsed body, climbs to the steps, and sits on the throne.